Checking In with Anthony and Glenn is brought to you by HD Supply.
It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.
Anthony.
What's up, Glenn? How are you today?
I'm doing really well
That's
today.
great, Glenn, because I really care.
I know, you really do. And you sound like
I
you
really care. Are you sure
today.
you're okay today, Glenn?
Well, let's be honest with you, maybe not so much.
Okay, Glenn, I don't
feel
care.
like
So let's get into what we're going to talk about. See, I told you I didn't care.
All right, save it for your therapist, Glenn. I can't tell you how many times
right.
I've heard that in
So what are we
my
talking
life.
about today, Glenn? Let's talk about something interesting. Let's give the people what they want.
I want to give people what they want, and I think one thing that they probably want right off the top is with the Christmas season coming right now, if you're here on Long Island, you're going to want to check out Christmas Day dinner at the Garden City Hotel. We're recording this show today from the Garden City Hotel. We love the Garden City Hotel, and even though they're not a paid sponsor, I love to share some of the things that are going on.
And people that know me know I don't talk about things I don't believe in, and I really love this hotel. I've been in the hotel business for a really long time, and the Garden City Hotel is a hidden gem. If you don't know it, please find it. Great bar, great restaurant, great food, great rooms, clean as could be. Service is great. It's a throwback. It really is a throwback in the greatest sense of the way. It's run by an incredible gentleman, Grady.
Colin.
Thank you. Grady's a great guy, a friend of ours, and he's been kind enough to allow us to hang out and sit on his couch and do our podcast. So and give us great breakfast every morning. So really love this hotel, not because I'm comfortable, because it just really is a nice hotel. So what the hell are we talking about today, Glenn?
We're talking about, make sure you check them out, the Christmas Day brunch at December 25th. Christmas Day dinner, also December 25th. Funny how that winds up being on Christmas. And of course, they've got a great New Year's Eve event, which we'll talk about as we get closer to that holiday. But I want to talk about some of the stories that have
No, before we go forward, Glenn,
Yeah.
I want to talk about something that has been bothering me for a very long time.
Oh, my goodness.
Do they have a Hanukkah brunch?
No.
Why
Nobody
not?
has.
Why does the Jewish people always get screwed out of like Hanukkah?
Because
Why don't we
honestly,
present it properly?
I'll tell you why. Because there's not many of us. We've managed to.
And you're mostly in New York.
What are we, like 0.6% of the world's population? But we get, I think, 80% of people hating us. So we really cornered the
Well,
market.
you know,
on
when
that.
I was in Rome, you know who I hung out with? An Israeli Jew.
Really?
An Israeli Jew. An Italian Jew. An Italian Jew. Right? An Italian Jew. That's who I hang out with.
Wow, I didn't know
And
there
there's
were
only
many of
like
those.
800 of them in all of Italy.
I'm always surprised when I hear about Jewish enclaves in other countries. Like there's a very small Jewish community somewhere in China.
Really?
For example.
Oh, yeah. I saw it on 60 Minutes.
Yeah, I saw it on some sort of like Discovery Channel
I
show
saw
or
60
something
Minutes.
like that. So, but I think it's really interesting that we've really got so many people who know who the Jews are, even though there are hardly any Jews on this planet. So honestly, if you were to throw a Hanukkah brunch, hardly anyone's going to come.
Oh, I'd come.
Yeah, thank you. And
You're welcome.
I think I'm going to have a Hanukkah brunch this year.
Listen, the only Hanukkah song I know is the Adam Sandler song.
Well, that's the only good one.
Greatest
What are we
song
what are
ever.
we gonna do? Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel.
Great
I made
song.
it out of clay. That's lame. So,
Okay.
All right. So on to the real
So
topic
onto the real stuff.
for today.
Glenn.
I noticed I was in New York City the other week, and Lord and Taylor, the department store, is going out of business. And
Do you know why?
Because retail sucks.
No. Do you know
Why?
who bought Lord and Taylor?
No.
Take a guess.
I thought you were going to say the Jews.
No.
Who?
I think Amazon.
Really?
Amazon or Google. Or some. We have to Google this. Who
Yeah.
bought Lord and Taylor? Because we sound like two idiots.
All right, I'll do that. But in the meantime, the sad thing about it closing is that there's no longer going to be any more Christmas windows there, and the Christmas windows thing seems to really starting to be going away in New York City, which is a real shame to me.
So it wasn't Amazon or Google. It was WeWork. It just came to me, Glenn.
So what?
After I Googled it.
Why would WeWork want?
Are you kidding me?
Departments?
That building is beautiful.
Oh, the building. Oh, they bought the
Yeah.
building.
They
not
bought the building.
Okay.
WeWork's taking over the world.
They really are. I think that's going to be the new way
100%.
that people are going to.
And it's going to be we
to
live,
work.
we school, we everything. We have sex, we everything.
Right, and you probably will have we have sex at that thing because I mean already they've got social spaces and stuff like that.
Unbelievable. And if you don't know what WeWork is, we're not going to waste time. Just go on Google and put in WeWork. WeWork is taking over the world.
I actually do want to use that as an entree. I have some stuff I want to talk about today, but I think that this is such an interesting topic, and I think that the co-located work environment, we're going to see all of this type of stuff really affecting the hospitality industry. And I'm waiting for a very strong hospitality contender to incorporate here in the United States that WeWork philosophy with the lodging experience. We're seeing it a little bit with the Hard Rock Reverb brand, but I think more is going to come.
Glenn, you know what's the great thing about being a hotel consultant?
What is that?
People consult you.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't talk about it, but I can just tell you that there is someone coming to New York that actually is going to do exactly that.
Right.
And I can't talk about it because I'm under a do not discuss.
All right, then. So thanks for listening to Checking In.
But it's true. Someone's coming in that has been very successful around the country, or actually I should say around the globe,
right?
With the WeWork kind of format. They're not a WeWork. They're a different company.
Mm-hmm.
And they've just recently bought a hotel in one of the boroughs. And they're taking that hotel and they're going to make it a hotel / WeWork kind of environment.
All right. Well,
So you're
congratulations
way ahead
to
of your
them.
you're way ahead of your time.
I've been talking about this for the last year or so. I think this is such a prime space. I see an incredible convergence happening in the hospitality industry. I'm giving a speech to a major hotel company in the next couple of weeks.
Who can I guess?
You can guess, but I'm under a strict do not share policy.
Wow. Glenn's coming to speak at our event. We can't tell anybody in the world because it's top secret.
Well, they're embarrassed to be having me. I just don't feel comfortable saying what it is. I'm just really happy that a major hotel company has invited me to speak to them, and I wouldn't want to share who it was unless they gave me explicit permission to do it. But one of the things I'm going to be talking about there is this convergence that I'm seeing, and how I think that WeWork element is going to be coming into the hospitality industry, how I see different forms of the hospitality experience and the different permutations that we're seeing pop up in Europe, for example, are going to come to the United States and make a meaningful difference to how hospitality is delivered in our country.
Understood. And I'm trying to figure out a way as you're talking to get that name out there without saying what the name is.
Don't bother. It's no worries. I don't want to get you in trouble.
I'm having fun with you today.
Yeah, I like that you have fun with me. Usually it's torture for you, so it's nice to see.
Where is the Disney World in Europe?
In outside Paris.
Okay.
It's really convenient to get there.
Well, that's the hint.
Okay.
But I'm going to leave it alone.
All right. It has been left alone. Let's talk about some of today's stories. I thought for today, it'd be a lot of fun to go. Damn it. All right. Now I'm so intrigued.
It finally dropped on his head.
Driving me crazy. All right. I've got mixed feelings here, Anthony, and I promise to be totally emotionally honest on this. I really want to know because I'm super curious. I think I have an idea now who it is, and I'm super curious about it. I want to talk about it. But we're talking about news of the day. The stories that are happening that are in the hospitality industry that are of interest to everyone out there. One of the big things that the hotel industry has been kind of ignored for a really long time, let it foment, and now it's really starting to affect business all around, is the whole idea of short-term rentals. That would be Airbnb and all the other companies that are involved in this. And the Hotel Association of New York City actually held an event within the last couple of weeks that was trying to figure out how to handle this particular problem. So very interesting thing to me that they would actually have a whole conference that's anti-Airbnb out there. So they're trying to figure out good legislation.
Well, New York has a very strong association. I was actually an executive member of that association years ago. And they're very strong. They're very forceful. And I think that they have a good fight that they should be fighting right now. I am a fan of Airbnb. I haven't really used it. But listen, any player that wants to compete against the hotel industry, go right ahead. If people want to use Airbnb, that's fantastic. I'll probably use it in the future. But the one thing that they're fighting for, and the one thing that I'm really, really fighting for and just really irritated and pissed off about, in our industry, everybody thinks that the hotel industry is a service industry. It's about service. No. We're a safety industry. We're about safety and security first and foremost. You hear when a flight attendants say, please listen, take your headphones off and listen to the exit, strategy and everything they talk about, how to use a seatbelt and everything. Well, honestly, I've never listened to them.
Well, I have, and I wonder why they have to tell me that tampering or disabling the smoke detector in the bathroom is a thing. If you're tampering with it, if you do any disabling is a form of tampering, so it's just an extra word. And
Well, no, I disagree because disabling it is making it not function.
yes, but that's tampering with it.
No, but if you're tampering it, you can put a mustache on it. That's tampering with it.
But if you just say tamper, it covers anything from putting the mustache on it to completely disabling it.
Do you need some cookies and milk right now?
I think I need something.
Okay, so
I don't.
so
maybe
I
could
hate
just-
the fact that Airbnb gets away with not having to stay to the same standard as hotels for safety and security.
and they don't.
Fire safety,
Right.
locking the doors at night, the way things work in a hotel. If, God forbid, there was a fire in New York City, high-rise hotel, there are sprinkler systems. There are fire codes.
That's
there
right.
are everything. There's a fire plan. There's a fire safety director on duty. And the fire department in New York City is so intense and so just uptight about the codes and ensuring that these codes are being adhered to. I know in New York City when I was running hotels, I mean, I was always scared when the fire department came in because I was frightened that we didn't have everything up to code. Oh, and of course we did.
Right.
So why shouldn't an Airbnb, whether it be somewhere in Missouri or somewhere in New York City, why shouldn't they have the same fire codes? Because if my daughter decides to book an Airbnb with her friends, right, and she's coming to New York City, and God forbid there's a fire in the middle of the night, why shouldn't they feel safe to know that someone's going to take care of them or their sprinkler systems or everything is taken care of? And that's not the case. And that pisses me off. Matter of fact, I was in Rome recently, and I was sitting next to a gentleman with a T-shirt.
Were you hanging out with any Jews?
I was not. Yeah, actually, I was. And but in this case, I was at a panel, and there was an Airbnb guy that's selling some kind of Airbnb software, and he had a stained T-shirt on, which
Right.
really bothered me. And everybody there had a suit and tie on. This guy had a stained T-shirt. So if you're going to represent Airbnb, you're going to represent him with a stained T-shirt. But anyway, and he said that first I laughed at him because I'm allowed to because I don't represent anybody but myself.
Right.
So he said that the hotel business in 10 years will be a niche.
That's ridiculous.
And not only, I said actually it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
What I said literally on a panel. I said,
is-
that's fucking ridiculous.
Like that guy who said email's going to be gone in 10 years
right.
ago.
So I was very upset. But what really upset me is when I brought up fire safety and security, and he said, well, we don't have to worry about that. Why in God's name don't you have to worry about that?
Right. And it's almost as
I'm asking you, Glenn.
because they're getting around with loopholes in the law. There's nothing specific that says that they have to do it, right?
Right, so would you
They're
get on
saying
a plane-
hotels have to do it.
Would you get on a plane without knowing that there was a raft, without knowing that there was life safety mechanisms in place? If they say, oh, by the way, on this flight, we don't have any life rafts and we don't have any vests.
Right.
Just in case but there won't be an emergency. Don't worry about it. Would you get on that plane? You know what? A lot of people probably would.
I think so.
Right? But a lot of people would probably not. And people that would then write a review on TripAdvisor saying, you know, I had to get on this plane because I was late for an appointment. I'm putting my life at risk. They don't have a vest. So to me, why would you say it's okay to go to a hotel and I'm going to be secure in the hotel and I expect security in the hotel? I expect to be saved, God forbid there's a fire. I expect that. But why is my expectation lower by going to Airbnb? I don't expect safety and security. Again, you're not in your backyard. You're not your friend's house. You're in a different country potentially or a different state. You don't know where everything is. You don't know where the exits are. You don't know who's at the front desk. You don't know anything. And you're assuming that you're going to be safe. Well, that's maybe as a consumer, you're going to assume that. But as an owner, you have to be mandated to ensure the safety of your desk.
Well, yeah, because if
guests.
you're not mandated for it, you're going to have a situation of what's happening now. People,
shit show.
Yeah, people are just trying to cash in and make some money and feel as if they are exempt from what's right. With
Don't ever ask me to be on a panel with an Airbnb guy and talk about fire safety without me getting really, really ridiculously excited because it's the one thing that pisses me off. And then people say, oh, you're anti-Airbnb. I am completely not anti-Airbnb. Okay, completely. I think Airbnb should
Right.
be able to survive, and all those services should be able to survive. And we, as a hotel, need to compete against that, just like we can compete against anybody else. However, you can. It's like it's going back to I don't know if this is a good analogy,
Right.
But why is everybody using steroids? Because the guy next to him used it. right? Well, if you're going to use it, I should use it. Well, if you're going to be in the hotel business, you should have fire and safety and security. Why should you not be able to use it? That's a terrible analogy, but there you go.
No, but it makes me think about the whataboutism that we're seeing right now with people arguing. If someone did something wrong, then you point to something else. Someone did something wrong, and they've convinced themselves that that's okay.
Oh, my favorite argument when you're talking politics, I won't even say what it is. Everybody, somebody throws up the same one line all the time anytime you talk politics.
Right.
I won't tell you what it is. But.
No, but we will tell you that at the event, winning the fight against short-term lets were organized by the Hotel Association of New York City. They're campaigning for a bill in the New York State Assembly called A7520, which will actually authorize short-term rental units, but require registration of apartments that are rented through Airbnb. So that seems to be a step in the right direction, for example. But the problem that we're seeing right now, and this is where you can understand compassion for the operators of these things, let alone, the issues that you bring up, which are 100% valid. A lot of folks are finding that it's so expensive to live in New York City. The only way that they can get by is to have somebody sleep on their couch.
Yeah, and that's a shame because they bought that apartment for $400,000 and they can sell for $2.4 million. I feel bad for them. Look at all the sympathy in my eyes.
Yeah, wow, it really shows.
You're kidding me, right? I mean,
no, I'm
it's
telling
a ridiculous argument.
It's
very expensive to live in New York City, and if you can't afford it, guess what? I don't live in New York City with 3 kids. I can't afford to live in New York City. I mean, my house that I pay, if I would have to get a 5-bedroom house or 4-bedroom house or an apartment in New York City, it would cost me $5 million.
I hate to break the news to you, but I'm pretty sure you live in Queens, not part of New York City.
But I don't live in the city of New York. Listen, I pay enough taxes and I pay enough for my house.
You live in a borough part of New York City.
But why are you telling people where I live? I don't live in Queens. No, but I'm talking about proper Manhattan. I'm talking about Manhattan.
I know. And most people, when we say the city, we say that we mean Manhattan. But Anthony, I just love that you opened up the door for me to give you a little bit of shit.
But thank you very much. I appreciate it. But no, but honestly, yes, it is expensive, and yes, if you bought your apartment for $500,000 and now it's worth $2.4 million, yes, you can't spend that money because it's in the bricks.
Right.
I understand that, and it is expensive to live in New York City, but I'm not feeling horrible for you because for Airbnb, you made it work. You'll figure out how to make it work. I just don't think it's fair that if I paid $3 million for an apartment in an apartment next to you, and you decide to rent it out, and every night I have to see people as my neighbors go in and out. I don't know if they're smoking, drinking, drugging, prostituting. I don't know what they're doing.
Right.
I am going to be really upset, and you're bringing the value of my apartment down because now somebody else hears this. Oh, that's an Airbnb apartment. I'm not going to that apartment building.
No, you're absolutely right. If I was a resident of it, I would be freaking pissed off seeing strangers.
Listen,
all
if
the
you're
time.
going to have an Airbnb, you have to have the same regulations as a hotel. Period. End of story. I don't want to hear anything else. Anybody else want to argue with me? Then argue with me.
Well,
I think it's bullshit.
Here's a compelling argument from one host. We want to let the hotel industry know that, we are here and we are not going anywhere. You work hard for your home, you pay taxes, and I don't think it's fair that people can tell you what you can or cannot do with your home.
Yes, and I agree with that. And I think that Airbnb, listen, like I said 3 times already, I like Airbnb.
Yep.
I think you should be allowed to rent your apartment as your apartment. I agree with that 100%. Mm-hmm. But you should be under the same guidance as a hotel. We pay a lot of taxes. We have a lot of expenses when it comes to fire safety and security. You should have the same proportionate expenses to your business because if you're going to run your house to make extra money to support yourself as a business, then you need to be a business person and you need to run it like a business and you need to be fair. So if I was going to go into the food business and I was going to sell seafood, how long before I sell bad seafood before I go out of business? I have to make sure it's fresh. I have to make sure that I know how to maintain that. I have to make sure I have the right temperature. I have to make sure I have the right employees to how to prepare the seafood so nobody gets sick. And that costs money. So if I'm going to go into the restaurant business, I'm going to ensure that I have the proper tools and I spend the proper money to run a proper business. So I have yet to be able to argue with anyone on the Airbnb side to be able to disagree. That they disagree with me, but they haven't made a good argument.
Right. The other thing they do is I think they artificially lower the rate that you can command for a legitimate hotel room.
And I don't even care about that. Good. you have an apartment, you're on Fifth Avenue, and you can sell that room for $300 tonight, and I'm going to sell my hotel room for $500. That's competition. Bring it on. Let's go. Okay, no problem. But now I'm going to put you the same expenses I have proportionate to your room. I'm going to make sure that you have fire safety. I'm going to make sure you put in a sprinkler system. Then tell me if that $300 is proportionate. Tell me if you can sell that room for $300. If you can, God bless you, and I'll compete against you. Just like I can compete against anybody else. But don't play baseball and tell me it's football.
Right. Yeah, totally. So we'd like to know what your thoughts are on Airbnb. It's an issue that every jurisdiction around the world is really having to deal with. The French are looking to outlaw it completely. So we want to know what your thoughts are. Drop us a line. How about finding us on our Facebook page, on our LinkedIn page? Let us know what you think on there. Anthony, you have something else you want to add on this topic?
But please don't tell me that I don't like Airbnb. Do not argue with me. Do not send me an email. Do not send me a text message and say Anthony's anti-Airbnb. I am completely for Airbnb. I am pro-business. So, of course, I'm going to be for Airbnb. I am pro people paying their rent and their taxes. But I am not going to have an argument with somebody saying, well, we're in different business, but we're in the same business. No, we can't be in different business, the same business. We're in the same business. We're selling a bed. Okay, you may sell services that are different. You may not have a front desk clerk, but we're selling a bed. And if you're going to sell a bed and somebody goes to sleep for 8 hours or 10 hours or 2 hours underneath your roof, you have to ensure they're protected. If they're not protected, you shouldn't sell that damn room, period, end of story.
Well, Anthony, I've actually been and stayed and enjoyed at Airbnbs, and I'm going to tell you more about that. Just stick around, and we'll do that right after this commercial break. Hey everybody, Len here. So listen to this. Cobblestone Hotels is celebrating their 10th anniversary, and man, have they accomplished a lot in the last decade. Already they have more than 150 hotels throughout the United States, but they're in smaller and medium-sized markets. Those markets that the big franchise companies, they're underserving, they're overlooking, and in some cases just ignoring. But Cobblestone is an expert in these markets. And their president and CEO, Brian Wagernes, listen, I've gotten to know him in the last 10 years, and he has worked every job possible, including being an owner and operator. I can personally vouch for how awesome this company is, how awesome he is as an individual, because he understands the importance of finding the right combination of hotel brand and franchise owner. He's also an incredibly dedicated professional. Whether it's a Cobblestone Hotel and Suites Main Street design, Borders Inn and Suites, or one of the newly acquired brands such as Boulders Inn and Suites, Key West Inns, Centerstone Inns and Suites, Cobblestone has brands that range from economy to upper mid-tier, and one that's right for you. Quite simply, Cobblestone Hotels is the franchise for franchise owners. Patrick Mullenix, well, he's Cobblestone's new president of franchise development. Give him a call or check out their website at cobblestonefranchising.com. But give Patrick a call. He's a great guy. I've known him for a really, really long time, too. You can find him at 920-216-0620. That's cobblestonefranchising.com. And tell him Glenn sent you. All right, and we're back. So, Anthony, I have stayed a number of times in Airbnb places, and I didn't intend to. I'm a big fan of the hospitality industry. I want to support the hotel industry. But
he says that so you tire him.
That's right. Yeah, get me to consult on stuff that I don't know about. When there are some cities that are charging so much sometimes, well, not the cities, the hotels within those cities are charging so much sometimes that it becomes not really a viable option to stay in them. And there was one time a couple of years ago, I do a number of projects aside from this one, and one of this is a video news channel that I'm a host of. And my video producer and myself attended a major international conference in a major U.S. city, and a particular hotel wanted to charge over $400 per night per room. It's $800, 2 rooms. I was there for 5 nights. That's $4,000. I found a great 2-bedroom apartment for the entire time for half that money.
That's great.
And it had a great space for us to have, to get work done within, and then still have our own spaces for privacy for when we needed that. Most importantly, our own bathrooms, right? So, the worst part about it, I think, of the entire experience was that I loved it, and we've done that ever since whenever we get together in these major
I think
cities.
that's fantastic. And I think that's why I like Airbnb. It's competition. And if the hotels are sold out and you can get that and it's convenient for you and it's less money, why not? That's called competition.
Right.
But they should be under the same policies and procedures as a hotel.
Yep.
So I love that. And you know what? I would probably do that. My friend went to Arizona, moved to Arizona, was in this really small apartment until he found a house. I'm sorry, a really small hotel room until he found a house. And he realized, let me go on Airbnb. He got a beautiful house for less money, and his family was very comfortable for a couple of weeks. So I'm all for Airbnb. But you've got to make sure you protect the people that sleep underneath your roof.
You sure do. And I think that some of the hotel companies are starting to understand these particular types of opportunities and are starting to experiment with their mix of rooms and how they do things. I know Marriott had tried about a year ago. I don't know the results of this, but it was an idea that was so intriguing to me, is to have 3 or 4 rooms around a common public space. So you could have a bachelor party, a multi-generational family getaway, that sort of stuff. Again, have your privacy space, but still have that shared places for experiences. I love that notion. I think it's something that's going to have some success in the future if hoteliers can figure out how to create that right
Well, it's
mix.
like the honeymoon suite. When you go to these big hotels, you'll see 3 or 4 doors.
Right.
Okay. Within a
Yes,
door. Like
right.
you have the outside door, and then you have the 3 or 4 suites within that door.
Yep.
And each person has their own key, but there's one master key to get into that. And that's for like a bachelor party, or if you're getting married and you're having your family come over, and you can close that door and you can all hang out. So it's kind of similar. But listen, big fan of the Airbnbs and those type of companies in the world. But if you're going to compete, let's all compete at the same level.
So, we're speaking about, potential challenges for the hospitality industry today is, I think, what the theme of today's show. And there's another interesting idea that was just presented, and it's called the autonomous travel suite. What happens when all of a sudden we have cars that can really drive themselves? And this year's Radical Innovation Award, a great design competition in the hospitality industry, was awarded to the autonomous travel suite created by Steve Lee of Aprilli Design Studio. And the whole idea is focusing on developing an advanced version of conventional vehicles that are really like a hotel room on wheels, which I think is a fascinating idea. It makes me think about the cross-country train travel.
I was just going to say, railroads did it.
And I also think about how shitty it is for me to take a flight home overnight, for example. Combining these two things is great. Have more space, be able to just travel on the American highways, not have to drive, and just be able to rest and relax. And yes, people, they do have a bathroom on these vehicles.
Right. And you know what's so funny? First of all, we have to talk about first is, yes, there will be self-driving cars.
Yep.
Yes, in 10 years, most cars will be self-driving, and we will be safer, because you will not be putting people behind the wheels that are intoxicated. You will not be putting kids that have no experience driving behind the wheels, and you'll be safe. And when people say, "Well, I'm not going to get into a hotel bed and then drive across country," that's ridiculous.
I know
I'm
these
not
are the
gonna
same
do
people that also said they weren't going to give up their privacy to Google.
Right. Oh, no, the same people that say, 100 years ago when they looked at the plane, say, "I'm not getting on an airplane.
Right.
That's crazy. How's that thing going to get me to California?" Right. Or the same people that say, "I'm not going to get into a car that drives itself that's going to prove safer, but I'm going to get into a car with somebody I know that doesn't know how to drive really well and fall asleep."
Right.
Right? How many times have you fallen asleep with someone driving the car and you're like, "Oh my God, did I just fall asleep with that idiot behind the wheel?"
Well, it reminds me of that scene in the classic movie Vacation, where they're driving in the car and you see the passenger side of the vehicle with mom fast asleep, and then it goes to the back seat. You see the son and the daughter asleep. Then it pulls up and you see Chevy Chase fast asleep behind the wheel of the car. Right.
So to me, yes, I think it's inevitable, and I think maybe it's not 5 or 10 years from having a hotel room basically be able to bring you cross country, but it's definitely coming.
It definitely is coming. I definitely believe it's coming in my life in particular, especially if I, start eating a little bit healthier and get to the gym occasionally.
Right, but now people are going to rent their cars, right? Now they're going to say, "Well, take my car cross country," right?
Right.
It'll drive itself cross country.
There's speaking of all these, the sharing economy that's out there. There's a brand new service now up competing against the car rental agencies where you could just rent cars from individual owners.
Yeah. Individual owners.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
really?
Which I think is really interesting. I think it's called Turo, Turo, or something like that. I'm not going to bother.
Listen, the more convenience. What was taboo before is now just normal and convenient. Like having things delivered to your door. Whether it be the share economy when it comes to Uber.
Well, right. I was speaking of Uber. Growing up in the 1970s,
somebody's car that you don't know.
Hitchhike, you crazy!
But you're getting in some guy's car that has 17 cats in Long Island, lives in his mother's basement, and is trying to make $20 tonight, and you're getting in this freaking car.
Right.
Now, again, I use Uber all the time, but I actually spend a little bit more money to get the higher end Uber because those are professional drivers.
Right. I want to apologize to all basement dwellers that have 17 cats. That was very insulting.
Well, I was going to say 3 cats, but I knew I'd get that mail, so I'd say 17. Because there's probably very few people having 17 cats in their mother's basement.
That's very true. But yeah, I mean, I think we're at an interesting crossroads in society where all of these things are still trying to figure themselves out. And eventually we will. I mean, when the hotel industry came into the mainstream, there was still a lot of trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And now we're seeing it in the sharing economy.
Think about 20 years ago when you looked at Bill Gates, right? And you looked at Apple. And you saw those people as the future. Like, of course they're going to be the richest people in the world because they're the future. They're technology. Would you ever think a guy that sold books and now sells apples, and I mean like real apples,
like groceries.
and groceries and T-shirts to your home would be the richest guy in the world? Jeff Bezos?
Yeah,
come on.
it's insane.
So it's an old world, it's an old world solution. It's an old world, it's basically retail.
Right.
It's just with a technology spin, and it brings it to your house. But it works better than it did if you went to the store. Because you go to the store, they don't have my size. I have to go to a different store. Can you call that store? Let me get my car and let me go back. I mean, it's brilliant. It's old technology with new technology. So you never know what's going to hit. What I definitely say is don't ever poo-poo when you see new technology coming out because you never know what's going to hit. Like kiosks 20 years ago, I knew immediately they wouldn't hit. I just knew it.
Right.
And they haven't, except in the big hotels, they really haven't. Now, the key kiosks are working where you can check yourself in, get your own key, or have a key on your phone. That's working better.
Well, that's interesting because when that technology first came out, I was still relatively new to the hospitality industry when I feel like it debuted 97, 98-ish,
around then.
Right? I just don't think the technology was in place, and also culture wasn't in the place for that to work. I think we've really transitioned to a place right now, in part because of our complete connection to our mobile devices.
I personally still hate it.
I'm not a big fan of it at times, but there are times where I wish I had it. For example,
go ahead.
I just had a very positive experience checking into one, which I'll share in just a second. But did you want to say something first?
Finish.
All right. I was at Caesars Las Vegas, right? And one of the things that I hate about going to the major Las Vegas casino resorts is that long-ass freaking line to check in.
There's something called
Drives
a VIP line, Glenn. You should try it.
Oh, yeah. VIP
Oh, you don't
line.
get invited to that VIP line?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm on the VUP line, very unimportant person line.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Whenever I've had the opportunity to check in through there, I've freaking loved it, reveled in it, and I'm like, and yes, I will have the water.
It's just a secret. When you're not invited to the VIP lounge, go to the VIP lounge and say you're invited anyway.
That's right.
I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. I may have done that once or twice.
I may have done that once or twice.
What do you mean? It was arranged for me to be here. Oh, don't worry. Mr. Haussman will take care of you.
So finish your
All right.
wonderful, interesting story.
Thank you. And I didn't detect a bit of snootiness coming from you at all on that. And it is wonderful. It is interesting because, the line was super long there, right? And I can't stand that. I've been to some of these hotels where you could be on it for half an hour. And when you get to Las Vegas after a long flight, and plus the energy and excitement of that city, you just want to get to your room and get on with it and have a good time. So there was this long-ass line at Caesars, and there were 10 kiosks, none of which were being used. I just strolled right up to it, I had to put in my ID. I had to put in my driver license. I had to push some buttons, blah, 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 blah. Within a couple of minutes, it spat out 2 keys for me, and I was on my way.
That's great. But you know who I blame? I blame the lobby manager or the front desk manager because they should have taken that line and brought them over to the kiosk.
Right.
And helped them at the kiosk.
Well, if you want to be real, what they should have done is they should, over the last number of years, actually hired enough people in order to service the line in a speedy type of a fashion, because they know when folks are coming in every day.
But it is complicated to get all those for people, even if you have 15, 20 cashiers or desk agents. I will say the technology I like is send me a link.
Mm-hmm.
I press the link. I get a code from my phone. I take my phone. I open the door.
Yeah.
That I'm all about.
Yep.
But to go to the kiosk and push a couple, 3 buttons. Now, if I see a line in front of me, of course I'm going to go to the kiosk.
Right.
Or I'm going to fake the VIP check-in.
Right.
One of those.
Yeah. Who knows? You never know. But if all things are equal, I prefer to deal with a human being. I think that's part of the hospitality experience. I don't like that we're switching to this fully automated society. I can't stand going to the grocery store and having to do all of the self-checkout. I miss certain things when you deal with
but come on. There's no worse service than a cashier at a grocery store in New York. I'm just saying from my experience. Like people say, the DMV sucks. The DMV in New York is fantastic. I've been in DMV, I'd say 8 times in the last 3 years, and every time I go, whether I lose a driver's license or I need to renew something, I go in, I'm out in like 10 minutes. So the DMV used to be bad in New York City. Now the ones I go to are fantastic, but grocery stores are terrible.
The DMV used to be such a huge joke, right? About having to go there. It was like
horrible.
always the punchline for a horrible situation. Once they started here in New York to be able to you can make an appointment and just show up at a specific time, it's been amazing.
The one I use, I go in, there's a number. You take a number. The number comes up on the board. Say, you sit down. It's not that you stand in the queue anymore. You sit down. You read your newspaper for a few minutes, sometimes like even a minute. They call your number. You go to the young lady or the young man. You do your business, and then you leave. It's amazing.
Yeah, actually, at the grocery store, at my local one, they've got a brand new system that's in place now, which I happen to like an awful lot. Which is you scan your frequency card, and then you get a little scanner gun, and you walk around and you hit the barcodes as you go and pack them in your bags, and then you just go to the checkout counter, and it has one barcode, and then you just
I'd rather. I'd rather shoot myself.
That's it's convenient. It's easier.
I don't like
Well, I like it because in Suffolk County, where I live on Long Island, in January 1st of 2018, they started a new law where it's a nickel per plastic bag that you use. And what it's done is that the nickel is so little, but it's really trained all of us Suffolk County folks to bring reusable bags.
Yeah, I would do that. I like that.
And when you have the reusable bags, it's just more convenient to go doop and put it in the bag and then be on your way than it is to have everything and then do the self-scanning at the end.
How's Amazon doing it? Because I know Amazon opened a store in Chicago.
I have not been to one of those stores
But where
yet.
you just walk through it and you walk out.
That's right. We're going to be getting to that in grocery stores soon enough, too, where you can just fill up your entire cart with stuff.
But
and it'll
I'm
just
telling you, I can't remember the last time I went to a grocery store, which I don't go too often, and the cashier actually looks at you and smiles and says, thank you and please, and, how was your, I don't know, did you find everything you needed? God forbid. Could you imagine a cashier at a grocery store said, sir, did you find everything you needed? I think I would crap myself.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, too. I don't think that's going to happen at all, but I do want to say something positive for supermarkets. Out of every single business that I've ever gone to in my life, those folks are the ones, that and I would say certain fast food restaurants, have done a great job at servicing the disabled communities by giving those folks jobs. I see a lot of folks that are, on the autism, Asperger's spectrum that are working there, have other disabilities that work in our supermarket. So for that alone, I will continue to go to that particular supermarket over others in my neighborhood that haven't embraced that culture as much.
That's fantastic. And listen, running a grocery store is probably harder than running a hotel, I'm sure.
I think so. I think so, too. So, Anthony, I think it's time to wrap up the show. So tell me something I don't know.
Well, as I'm sitting here and my foot is still broken, so my foot's up and I'm looking at the ceiling and I see gold paint.
Yeah.
Back in 1991, when I was working at that beautiful hotel, the Plaza Hotel, the room... all the banquet rooms looks very similar to the room that we're in right now. And all the gold paint, we were told, was 18-karat leafing. That's what we were told. And that's what we sold and marketed when we sold and marketed the banquet and catering facilities, that our paint is 18-karat gold. Okay. Fast forward 30-something years later, I'm in a meeting, and I won't tell you with who, and he says, my wife company painted the Plaza Hotel. And that was not 18 karat gold. It was gold painting, but it wasn't 18 karat gold. And when the hotel marketed it as 18 karat gold, they never said anything because it's not their place to say anything. But the owner of the hotel told everybody to say it was 18 karat gold. And in 1991, Google who's the owner of the Plaza Hotel.
That'll be an interesting thing to Google.
Yes. Do you know who it was?
I do know who it was.
Okay, so don't tell him.
I'm not
Google
going to.
it. 1991, owner Plaza Hotel.
That's right, because we want this podcast to give you homework.
Right.
Excellent.
So, Glenn, what's that question I have for you? Tell me something I don't know.
I have this deep, desperate desire to.
Every time you say something, it's always deep, desperate. You're always deep and desperate.
Am I?
I think
I'm
so.
gonna have to work on that. Let me change that up.
Your deep, desperate desire.
I have an unflagging want to take my kids to more professional sports events because I think they're fun. I think they're good, but they're so freaking expensive that I just cannot rationalize it. I don't understand how these professional leagues are continuing to make the boatloads of money that they're making when I can have a great viewing experience at home.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Same thing with Broadway. I love Broadway. Broadway is fantastic. Every year, I told you, I take my children on Black Friday, my nieces and my nephew and my children, and we usually see a Broadway play. This year, we didn't because I didn't want to get into the city because of my foot.
Right.
And so we went to a hotel, and I said, "Hey guys, if you want massages, go get massages." And then my daughter said, "Really?" And my niece said, "Really?" I said, "Sure, go get massages." What they don't realize is 6 massages actually for that hotel was about 30% of what I would have paid on tickets for a Broadway play.
Yeah, I know. It's insane how so much how expensive stuff is today. I really wanted to go see a particular performer that's at Madison Square Garden every single month for the last 5 years. You know, as a Long Island fan, we have to love Billy Joel, and I like Billy Joel a lot. My wife's not a huge Billy Joel. Now I want to go, but it's $150 for tickets. So that's $300 plus the ridiculous Ticketmaster fees, which has got to get you up to about $350 plus parking or plus train. So that's about the same, about $60 plus a nice dinner. Before you know it, you're at $600-700 for a night out. Is it really worth it?
Crazy.
And I'm finding more and more and more in life that a lot of these things that we used to do when we were young, when we were kids, I grew up going to so many Broadway shows. I haven't brought my kids to any but one.
I went to a go-kart place in New Jersey, RPM, really nice go-kart place. There was 5 kids. I couldn't go because of my leg. There was 5 kids, and they went twice on the track.
Right.
Cost me $300.
Jesus, that's insane.
They went on a racetrack, a go-kart track. It cost me $300 for them to go twice.
Right.
That's insanity.
And now that we're sitting here, and now we
Why are we
wonder,
complaining about this, Glenn?
wonder why our kids are so focused on video games and stuff like that. Well, they're so much cheaper to just sit them in front of the dang TV and let them play computer games than it is to actually take people out and do stuff in the real world.
Yeah, things are getting more and more expensive. That's for sure.
It is really frustrating.
But not hotels. You should go to the hotel because the hotel is worth it, no matter if it's $100 or $1,000. Actually, I had a friend that who's a pretty high-priced lawyer in the city. I play cards with him, great guy, and he went to Dubai. And I have a fan of mine that, like pen pals, I met her through her career. She's a wonderful young lady, and she suggested this hotel in Dubai for this gentleman. And he's kind of a particular person, and he just sent me an email and or a text message, and he said this is the best hotel he's ever been to in his entire life. He said there's a pool, then there's a pool butler, then the breakfast was set up in front of the pool. Anyway, it went crazy, and he paid $600 a night for it. And he says it was the best $600 a night, and he's not a guy that like spends $600 a night. Best $600. So there's great value in hotels. I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, there certainly is. That's why we love the hotel business. That's why we continue to do the show twice each and every week. Oh, you know what I want to do? We had promised whenever somebody puts up a 5-star review on our iTunes site, and please post reviews and give us that 5-star rating. It really does help us out. It helps others like you find this show. So I got a great one from her name is Jacqueling, Jacquelyng. Jacqueling. She says it's a must listen for anyone wanting to better their career. 5 stars. I was thrilled when I saw this podcast because I know how much value Anthony and Glenn have to offer listeners. I appreciate the fact they're straightforward and don't sugarcoat anything and bring listeners the truth. Thank you, Glenn and Anthony. This podcast is helping me as I grow my career, and I know it's helping others. I look forward to the great content to come. Well, thank you.
Signed, Glenn's mother.
yeah, I would be suspicious of that too because it's like the first one that actually mentioned me. Except for that other review that we got where that person's actually starting to get accustomed to me. So,
So, but all seriousness, please send us emails, text messages, whatever you need to do to get us a message, to tell us what you want us to talk about. We're trying to make it relevant content. We're trying to get you to listen. That really helps your career, really helps what you're thinking about. If we're just going to sit here and just bullshit all day long, that doesn't help anybody. So we really are trying to tap into what you want to hear. And also there's a lot of relevant content on Glenn's other podcasts in reference to hotels. And I have another podcast called Extraordinary People that's really interviewing people that really kind of pivoting in their career, pivoted maybe when they were younger and did extraordinary things. So it's not really hotel centric, but it's a great podcast, and please listen to it. Extraordinary. And Glenn, what other podcasts do you have?
Yours drops every Thursday, I should say, and available on iTunes and everywhere.
Every Thursday, and iTunes is up on iTunes today, actually. And our first Extraordinary podcast was with Joe, and Joe is the owner of Black Tap. And you got to listen to his journey. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and if you like talk about Italians, you definitely get into Italian culture in that.
We talk about meatballs,
which we were just talking about a little bit here on this show, or is it another?
So, what are your other podcasts?
All right, I also do No Vacancy with Glenn Haussman, where I get to interview CEOs and other influencers in the hospitality industry. All of the big names that are there, none bigger than Anthony, but still big names that I get. The CEOs of the major hotel corporations and the top investors, developers, all of those folks that you really need to know about. And December is going to be great because I'm speaking with hoteliers every single week, CEOs of smaller, mid-sized hotel companies from around the world. I got a lot of interviews from European companies. I'm excited about that one. There's, of course, the Hotel Design podcast with top folks as well in the design side of the business, including Raul Leal, the CEO of Virgin Hotels, was on a recent show. Mitch Patel of Vision Hotels has created an amazing hotel company, tells the story of his journey as an Indian American. And then finally, I do this show, Checking In with Anthony and Glenn. I think it's my favorite of the bunch.
And I'm Anthony. You can find me at Anthony Hotels, anywhere you want to be on the internet.
And I am at Traveling Glenn, and I want to thank you guys for listening. Please send us some thoughts. We really love to hear from you. And like Anthony said, we want to create content that's perfect for each and every one of you. If you're not learning, we're not teaching.
And when you leave your thoughts, also leave a place where we can find cheese for Glenn's wine.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm definitely in the need of some more cheese, and I've got plenty of wine. If you've been listening to this episode, you know why I've got plenty of wine. Thanks for listening, and I should say thanks for checking in.
It's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn.